All right, so assalamu alaikum guys on YouTube. Everyone's watching. Just let me know in the comments if you guys can hear us. If the sound's working.
Yep. I think we're good to go, Musab.
Right, I'm live as well.
Okay.
So alhamdulillah, mashallah. Brother Adam, if you can just tell us some fun facts about yourself.
Well, fun facts. I don't know. I don't know about fun. Well, I'm a 41-year-old. I'm an online coach and personal trainer. I was a teacher of 18 years, and I've got. I grew up in a madrasa.
Allahu Akbar. That's it. We gotta give you a bet, bro. You grew up in a madrasa.
You traumatized, bro. 18 years.
So you did hifz there? What did you do?
I did his. I didn't finish.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, it all goes back to the scholars, Sheikh Maulana Yusuf Mutala and all these guys who kind of established these places. These guys made a lot of, mashallah, effort in the early days. Right, so guys, can you hear? Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so today we've got an amazing guest, inshallah. As always, all our guests are amazing, as you guys all know, right? We don't come out with the non-amazing guests, right? All of them are amazing, yeah, mashallah. And we also got the amazing Altaf as well, and the amazing Naveed, who seems to be outdoors, although he's robbing someone's car, or he's
I'm listening to reggae music, as you can hear.
Now it looks like he's at a dawat and basically he wants to do take part, so he just quickly jumped outside.
No, basically, it's an odd night, and obviously I work for a charity, so we're on about every odd night we're at the office usually. I've popped out because there's a few brothers there that come to give a donation and they know some of the stuff, etc.
Okay.
So I'm actually
in Birmingham.
Head office?
Yeah.
Okay, mashallah. May Allah accept it from you, man.
Middlesbrough.
So, our guest Adam.
Famous marketing, sorry.
Oh, mashallah. Our guest Adam was a person that I came across on Facebook, and I was really intrigued by his thing because he was offering by his program that he offers, and also kind of like the help and assistance he offers, not only nutritionally but also in regards to training and stuff. And that's why I kind of like firstly got inclined towards like following more of the content and seeing how other people are benefiting. And I think I like the fact that it was no nonsense kind of honest truth in it. It's like, bro, if you're not losing weight, it's because you're either not exercising or you're not eating right. One or the other.
Story of my life.
Quite simple, isn't it? There was no quick, easy win as well.
Yeah. Since then, I've learned it's a bit more deeper than that. You see some of my recent posts. I've changed tact, if you will.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
What would you say? What would you say has been the change? Is it kind of like more getting people connected to their why?
Yeah, I've studied further since then, and I've gone into more deeper into the psychology and the genetic reasons as to why people are unable to keep off. One of the standard treatments. If you were getting treated by the NHS, how would they treat you? So more standard standard obesity treatments and not so much weight loss treatments, but more for people with more things like that. Don't eat too much chicken.
Yeah, the brothers are don't eat too much chicken.
Yeah, I love my fried chicken. It's probably one of my favorite foods.
Okay, mashallah. So I think one of the things that we were thinking about is that, look, in the month of Ramadan, people go through like a lot of different changes. So like they go through a spiritual change. Some people, and your spiritual change can be either good or bad. Either you did really well in Ramadan, or you didn't do as well as you thought you would do.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happens after Ramadan spiritually? But also kind of like at the same time, as part of that spirituality and not a separate thing, is also about what you consume and eat and your weight management and things like that. And for people in Ramadan, they kind of like sometimes, they go a bit of a miss. So it can go either way. Like I always lose weight in Ramadan, and then there's those people that will come out of Ramadan and they'll be like bigger than they were before Ramadan somehow, even though they've fasted for 20 hours a day.
That's me. That's me.
You put on weight in Ramadan.
Yeah, not this Ramadan. This Ramadan, my son's been at his mum's. I kind of live alone, so and because of all social distancing, I've not been going to my parents or anything. So I've been pretty much on my own the whole of Ramadan, and I've deliberately tried to eat. I don't cook any unhealthy foods anyway, and I've deliberately tried to eat healthy as possible. I put up some of my favorite foods. It's like, is that what you ate after fasting for 20 hours? Like boiled vegetables and a bit of grilled chicken. So I literally had foods like that. Despite that, I still struggle to stay within my calorie requirements. So this year, inshallah, I think I've lost weight, and I've been trying to keep. I've not been training formally or properly. I've been sort of the odd few sets here and there, and anytime I've done the odd set, everybody's known about it. Otherwise, apart from that, I've done a lot of walking and cycling to keep my steps.
Are you trying to make us jealous?
No, I think it was a poor performance on my behalf, to be honest with you.
Alhamdulillah.
But,
If I can just interrupt you there. When I started training here, I started MMA about 4 years ago. And then I did it for like 2 years, then I stopped. The first day I done it, yeah, I don't know what is called in your field. When you kind of really get exhausted and you feel dizzy and you feel nausea, yeah, and you feel like you're gonna die or something. Your heart's kind of beating so hard that it's gonna come out your chest. Yeah, I remember that happened to me. So I was sparring with a guy, and all I could see was stars. And the guy said, "You okay, lie down." So I lied down for about 10 minutes, and then I felt better. So why is that?
it sounds like low blood sugar.
Okay, so
You probably ate. What that often happens if you had something that's simple carbs, if you will, high sugar, and then you get a sharp drop of blood sugar. So if you hadn't eaten properly before and you had something that was maybe white rice or something that spikes your insulin pretty quickly, and then after training you had a sharp drop, and that is most likely that it was that. Plus, of course, you're not used to the training; it's new and everything else.
Yeah, because I remember that. I don't know if I ate something which was high carbs, but it was really shocking to my system because I thought I was quite healthy. I mean, looking at my physique, I'm not the skinniest of guys, and I'm not I'm not fat.
MMA, was it grappling?
It was Thai boxing and boxing.
Yeah, because it's a very, very strenuous sport. Whenever we take anybody into training, we start them off. You're gonna get me going off on a tangent now. The historically, everyone's like, okay, train them as hard as possible. Now, we say you start them off much more easier. You don't go as hard as possible. You start off with something really manageable. And if you're talking, so to simplify it, we look at something called rate of perceived exertion, RPE. So we tell somebody when they start training new, they should be training at a level. If 10 was unbearable, and 1 is you're not even you couldn't even get a mouse's heart beating, right? You're going to be training at about 6 or 7, but you have to train at about 6 or 7 to get some sort of an adaptation. In other words, to make some sort of improvement, you have to be training at about 6, and then you slowly build it up to about 8 on that, around 8. Most of the time, you shouldn't be training above 8, because once you get into the territory of 9 and 9.5, then you don't recover. It becomes counterproductive. And that's also, if any of you guys do weight training and you plateaued for years with the same weight, and you keep beating yourself against the same weight, you'll see what happens after a bit. You start regressing. You say you get to 100 kg bench press, and then you can't get past 100 kg, but that 100 kg is really tough where you only get 5 reps, 4 reps. If you keep doing that and you don't train with 90 kg and you keep beating yourself up with 100 kg, you'll see after a bit your strength starts going down. That's because above 8 and 9, you're eating into your recovery. Your body can't recover from that. So you need to be training between a 6 and an 8, and that's enough of a stimulus to allow you to recover and continue to make progress.
So I've got a question in terms of like body recovery and stuff. In terms of Ramadan, right? There'll be like those two camps of people, right? There'll be those people who, got a tubby custard tummy as a result of Ramadan, and there'll be those people who have lost weight as a result of Ramadan. What kind of advice would you give both of those groups of people?
Right. One of the ways that you can find out if somebody's a good coach is if they start most of their answers with depends. Because very few things are clear cut. It all depends on the individual. Now, when I say that, like some people completely misunderstand what that means, and when you tell them like carbs don't make you fat, it's everything else. It's not just carbs, and they're like, oh well, it depends. Everybody's different, isn't it? That's what. No. Principles stay the same. Right? General principles stay the same. Right? What's different is how people's psychographic or psychology, that's different, and their lifestyle and things like that. So you have to adapt them principles to that person's psychology and to that person's lifestyle preferences, things like that. But the principles don't change. So to answer your question, it depends on how they lost the weight. If they've lost weight, it depends on how they lost the weight. If they lost the weight just through diet, studies have shown that people who lose the weight just through diet, they regain it back very, very quickly. And on top of that, some of the weight loss will be just glycogen and water because they've not been eating. So the first week, when you start eating normally, you're going to restore some of that glycogen back into your muscles, and all this water and everything else, and you're going to gain some weight anyway. Okay, but if they haven't been training and they haven't, so they won't have non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so that won't exist, and because of that, people who lose weight just through dieting, they gain it back very, very quickly. So the advice would be start building a habit of moving. For a start, moving, and that's what I've been trying to do in Ramadan. Is just at the very least go walk. And my job is very sedentary. I literally walk out my bedroom, and I'm here now, and this is my study room, literally like the room next door, and I literally work all day from like 8:30, 9 in the morning till about this time in the evening. And the only time I stop is to eat or salah. In Ramadan, I'm not even stopping to eat, and and I'm behind a computer all day. So I had to get my activity in. So I would literally force myself to go out and I'd listen to a podcast or audiobook or something of that nature and go for a walk, for a 40, 50-minute walk, or cycling or something of that nature, just to get my non-exercise activity thermogenesis in.
Okay. So somebody like me, right? Personal advice, freestyle most stuff. In terms of
I thought, what happened to your training? Or there was like this phase on Facebook where you went really hyper into training. You were like peaking.
I still was training, but I just wasn't posting.
Oh. So
what happened is that I carried on training up until the lockdown. And then after the lockdown, I didn't have anything at home. So I did a few, HIIT sessions with body weight and stuff. But I got a bit bored of those, to be honest, right?
With a PE teacher? Was that with the online PE teacher?
Yeah, online. What's his name? Joe Wicks. My youngest son, whenever he hears Joe Wicks, he says, I hate Joe Wicks. Because at 9 o'clock every morning, we used to make him stand in front of the TV, right? And they'd all have to do the exercise. And my youngest son would just go, Joe Wicks stinks. I hate Joe Wicks and all of this stuff.
As a wise man, because, for kids it's fine. But I actually wrote a post today, and you'll see it on my page soon, inshallah, because I post stuff and I schedule them. I don't post them all in one go. I schedule them over weeks. So I actually posted something on HIIT training. HIIT is like majorly overrated. It's like it's way overrated. You see, when it comes to weight loss, they found that weight training has the best effect for fat loss. Because what happens is, HIIT. The thing about HIIT was
1 second. I don't understand. What is HIIT?
it's high intensity interval training.
Oh, okay. All right.
So with HIIT, don't get me wrong, I'm going to come to its benefits, but the reason that people like sit and write home about it is because they say you have something called EPOC. EPOC is exercise post oxygen consumption. It's how much oxygen you take in after you exercise, and that correlates with how many calories you burn. And it basically paying off the oxygen debt. So when you're training, you needed all this oxygen, and then later on you're paying off that oxygen debt. And in order to pay off that oxygen debt, you burn some calories. But it's majorly exaggerated. The most a HIIT session, the most calories you burn from a HIIT session post after the workout is anything from 6 calories to a maximum of 50 calories.
That's not even a digestive.
Whoa.
That's not digestive. That's not even half an apple. That's half an apple.
Oh.
Because
So why is it being so sensationalized?
that's marketing for you. That's how the Daily Mail works. You know, I mean, I saw something today about Adele, the singer. She's lost a lot of weight, and so everyone's going crazy about it. And so all these newspapers have jumped on because it's trending. They're writing articles about her diet and stuff. And they said that she followed something called a CERT diet, where they have selective foods that are meant to be superfoods, and they are anti-inflammatory and things like that, which is good. They have some good foods in there, but if you have foods that are so restricted, you're missing out on other nutrients. Because you need to eat a wide variety of foods to ensure you're getting all nutrients, and all vegetables, all wholesome food, halal and tayyiba, all that type of food, it has immense benefits. They all contain something that's beneficial to you. And so you can't be extremely restrictive in what you eat, because then you miss out on the benefits of other foods.
So are you kind of like against veganism?
Veganism, I'm not against it. If someone does it for compassionate reasons, then it's commendable. But if they're trying to be advanced, in sport performance, then it's not the best option. They can still do it, but they're making life really hard for themselves.
Okay, I think that's really interesting, Mufsab, because it almost is the way that when it comes down to the level of training that you do in Ramadan and post Ramadan, it almost sounds as if that actually in Ramadan there is some movement to be done, and it's now we're on the 29th, we're coming up to the 28th, 29th fast, depending on which timetable or which moon you follow. But you're coming towards that end. Is there anything practically people can do still at this moment to get themselves active, Adam?
Yeah, the first thing you see, and this is what I was saying before. Before it was all a case of, it's overly simplistic. It's a case, go and exercise, go hard, eat healthy, diet, don't eat this, don't eat that. That was my kind of amateur thought process. Now we realize that it's not as, everybody knows that. You know to exercise, I know to exercise. Okay, some people, they say, okay, we don't know how to exercise, but I was talking about what's optimal. You don't have to do something that's optimal. Like I said, it's overrated. It's not what it's made out to be. But it will still do something for you. You'll still gain a benefit, and you can still lose weight. It's not the most optimal, but you still lose weight. So everybody knows you have to move more and eat healthy and eat less junk. But the question is, why can't you do it? Why can some people do it, and why can't others do it, and why can't you stick to it? Now, there's two reasons for that. Like I said, one of them is we're in an obesogenic environment. This environment and our current lifestyle is almost conspires to keep us fat, make us fat, because the foods are very, very high calorie. They're very high calorie, and they're hyper palatable. Like, you just want to keep eating more and more and more. I mean, man, I get like that with healthy foods, never mind like chocolates and stuff. Like, I deliberately had to stop eating before because I was like already like, I'm eating too much. I know like what a decent sized portion is supposed to look like, and I know that I've eaten like twice the amount, and I still wanted to carry on eating because the food tasted so good. Now we're in an obesogenic environment. A 1,000 years ago, to get 600 calories, you'd have to expend a couple of hundred calories. You'd have to go hunting. You'd have to go fishing. You have to go to the lake or to the seaside. You'd have to walk there, then fish, then carry it back, then cook it, and everything else. Now, like there's this. I actually put it up on my page. I made a joke about it, where it says that it says Domino's. Some like you press this button and you get your desires fulfilled in 5 seconds. And I said you get a heart attack in 5 seconds because Domino's pizza, for example, and with all the extras, if you got it, it's like 2,000 calories. You can you can get 2,000 calories now at the press of a button in 15 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
Historically, for you to consume 2,000 calories, you'd have to expend like 500 calories. That makes sense?
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Nav, since you're back, and you're on the road, like many Muslimics are at this moment in time, who are fundraising anyway, mashallah. What's your diet like in Ramadan? And secondly, when's the last time you started training? Because I know you did train.
I finally got into the gym. I'll answer the opposite way, bro. I finally got hooked on the gym. You know, when you're past that point where you're starting to enjoy it. So I regulated that. I cut out all the fatty food out of my diet. I went lower on my carbs. I started eating cleaner carbs. And then I was eating a lot more grilled food, a lot more fish, less red meat, more veg. And I saw the effects. And, your wife or, the people living at home, they see you all the time. But, when you see your friend or you see someone after a while, and they're like, bro, your shoulders have come out or this, that. You do get that little boost of energy. You think, yeah, man, mashallah. Finally, after all these years, I finally put on some size. So that was going really, really well, bro. And then the lockdown happened. And then what happened was I got some old weights out of my shed. And I had this old coffee table, so I made it into a bench. So I was doing that as much as I possibly could.
Old weights sounds like World War II, some sort of like ex-military.
Yeah, ex-military. Basically, used to get these weights from Argos back in the day.
Remember was it Rocky? Remember when he's gonna go and fight that guy, and then he kind of like
sugar bags.
That Russian guy is kind of like doing all the kind of the high tech training, and he's kind of like picking up logs and.
Yeah, I found some really old stuff from like Argos I bought ages ago when I first got into the gym hype, and burnt out after 2 weeks. But this time I made use of it. But I did it for about the first 2 weeks of Ramadan, and after that I just burnt out, and I ain't done it since.
Actually, that's a good. I think that's like a very good kind of like thing that we can possibly sort of relate to kind of Islamic spirituality, which is sometimes what tends to happen is people on social media they kind of like plaster so much information on their walls about spirituality that you don't exactly know what to do, right? Like especially in Ramadan. In the last 10 days, what should you do last 10 days? So you got this guy who sent like a 20 list thing that you should do in the last 20 days, and you don't know what to do. And it works for some people, and it doesn't work for others. So what I think Brother Adam is saying about the idea of, depends. I think that's a very good point that he made, which is sometimes what tends to happen is we kind of there's a crazy sensationalization of a certain sort of like technique of doing something. And everyone thinks, what? This is the best. I mean, it was like something like, giving bay'ah to a sheikh. So there was a particular sheikh that came down to Birmingham once, and all of a sudden, everyone's giving him bay'ah. So the one guy pulled him over. I said to him, did you give him bay'ah? He goes, yeah. I go, why? He goes, I don't know. He goes, everyone was doing it, and it felt good to do it.
Okay, then.
I got him, okay, explain to me what's going to happen now. He goes, I don't know, we just give bay'ah, that's it. I go, so there's no way of communicating with him, asking him advice, because the whole point of like spiritual bay'ah is like a training mentor.
Mentorship, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. So you get in contact with him. Your mentor knows you so well that this guy knows that, look, you know what? You don't do this kind of like rituals, dhikr and things. You do these ones. Right? These are good for your temperament. And I think that's the exact same thing when it comes to training as well. And I think that one of the negative things that can come out of this, which I've seen, is people have this false sort of like placebo effect, where they might get into this spiritual kind of mode, right? And then they're doing it for a while, and they feel as though, yeah, they're getting the benefits from it. But in reality, that's not the benefits. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe you can probably correct me on this when it comes to training as well. I think a lot of people have this where they do a bit of training, yeah, and then someone might say to them, mashallah, your shoulders look big. And then all of a sudden, it kind of makes you think, maybe I'm doing the right thing. This is the right thing. And then when you hear about those kind of like guys who, go to the gym all the time and still have cardiac arrest or something, or they have, some sort of a, some other.
You know what's off-putting Mufti Saab though? I don't know if you can relate this to like spirituality. Like every time I go to the gym, there's always one expert in the gym that loves telling you, no, I can do this, do that. Look what happened to me. Look what happened to me. Look at my arm. Look at my definition. Like, okay, bro, I'm just here. I'm entry level, bro. You might be like intermediate. You might be like a bit advanced. Just leave me to my thing. No, do it like this. No. Even though, like, on whatever exercise, like even on the induction, they told you to do it. No, ignore them, bro. Do it my way. I know better, brother. There's always someone in the gym.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. Because I remember once I went to the gym, and there was this. Basically, every time I used to go, there used to be this kid, right? And he smelt of weed basically all the time. You go near him, everyone knows what weed smells like before you say to me, yeah, how do you know? So
it is the normal smell of the streets.
That's the normal, like Febreze. That's the Febreze of.
You know something I've noticed, during lockdown, whenever I've gone out for a walk, I can smell weed everywhere. I don't know if and I thought maybe people are feeling depressed and they're in the houses smoking weed because they're feeling depressed or something.
You hear about that drug dealer, Adam? You just remind me, that drug dealer who got caught with drugs and he said, "I'm a key worker."
No, but that's a good point. There's this guy I was watching the other day on YouTube, a documentary, and the guy said, when the Spanish plague happened, artists went out of jobs, because like artists can only work when they're motivated, and because they were all on lockdown in Spanish, the Spanish flu. What basically happened was there was an artist, and they looked at his art before the plague and after the plague, and they saw big differences in there. Because when the plague occurred, a lot of people must have gone into depression, anxiety, and obviously in them days they would have had sort of like support mechanisms in place to help people. And
no weed is what they're saying about that time.
I'm sure they had their own. So yeah, I was saying to you. So there was a guy, yeah. So one day we walked in the gym, and this guy, what he used to do? He used to roundhouse kick the punching bag, like a really heavy punching bag, like not a normal one. And our coach on the first day, he said to us, "Listen," he goes, "the punching bag, respect it." He goes, "The more you respect the punching bag, the more you respect your body." Now I didn't understand that. So this guy came in without warming up. He did this kick over his head. He used to do, and bang! You heard a crack. He cracked his shin. And he was screaming, holding his leg, and we just didn't know what to do. And the ambulance came, and they took him away. And the guy was like, he was kind of keeping himself like confident. One of those kind of guys off the street. It's okay. You know what? I can take it. Yeah, God's with me. God bless God.
I think when it comes to those kind of things, though, you do like. You get that expert that's in the gym, and you're just trying to focus on your own thing. So I figured that out. Because I just keep my headphones on even when I'm not listening to anything.
Yeah.
So nobody comes and talks to you. Then that was my trick.
And everyone's thinking he puts headphones on not to listen to the outside music.
Yeah.
Most of the gyms are quite antisocial. I worked at Pure Gym for about 4 or 5 months, and yeah, you get the experts, all these experts in there. Especially sometimes you get these 16-year-olds telling 40-year-old guys what to do. And the uncle, you do it like this. But here's the thing, when you start training, for the first 6 months, you can do anything and you get a result. You can do anything and you'll get a result. It's newbie games. And even after that, and then there's some people who quite genetically, they're gifted, right? And in spite of doing everything wrong, they still continue to make progress. So it's them guys that really throw the spanner in the works.
Mm.
And they look quite good. But mind you, like,
It's like Brock Lesnar. He's like, he can do anything in the gym. He's always gonna have muscles.
Man, but I mean, what can you say about the guys in the gym? You know, there's YouTube channels that have got 3 million followers, and they talk some of the like absolute like nonsense. Like, you know, it's you know, I always these days, right? I always like I'm hesitant about putting something out there without double checking and triple checking and making sure I've got my facts right. And for that reason, I've not even put too much out on YouTube. But then I think there's people with like 3 million followers, and they're telling everybody that you put a towel under the small of your back, and you lie down 5 minutes, and that's how you lose belly fat in 30 days.
Whoa.
And
Well,
it's a Japanese doctor.
I've been sleeping on a towel for the last month. Nothing's happened.
It's a Japanese doctor discovers new trick to lose belly fat in 30 days. And you apparently put a towel underneath it. But then there's people commenting at the bottom saying, do you know what, I tried it and it worked.
placebo.
I
remember Adam posting that, and I went, what type of towel is a Primark towel, or right? Does it have to be a Marks and Spencer's towel? You know, how thick does it have to be?
About 3 people privately messaged me asking me, brother, does this work? I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like...
Yeah, you should just say yeah, but you can only buy Adam Kaan merch, and it's only my towels that work because we have a special serum in the towel or some nonsense like that. Man.
Actually, someone asked a question here. Do you think metabolism slows down in Ramadan?
No, not really. See, when you lose weight, your metabolism does slow down a little bit, and that is to be expected. There's a tiny amount of metabolic adaptation, but most of it is due to the fact that you lost weight. So before you had weight and you was carrying more weight around. So when you're carrying more weight around, you burn more calories. So when you reduce your weight, you're carrying less weight around, so you burn less calories. But then there's like the metabolic adaptation where it just happens just due to other factors like hormonal factors, leptin and things like that decreasing, all the rest of it. That at most accounts for about 15% of your total calorie intake. So it's not much. It's not much. And in such a short space of time, it's not going to be anything major. And if you do weight training, that would counter that as well.
How come people go fat in Ramadan?
It's easy. I'm an expert at that. You just have to eat pakoras.
You don't need a dalil for that, bro. You don't need a dalil for that, Naveed.
When I said I'm not going to eat fried food, yeah, everybody was like, ha, ha, ha. Even my family were like, ha, ha, ha. My wife was like, ha, ha, ha. Even the pakora themselves were like, ha, 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 ha. Everybody was laughing at me, brother. Because you know what? That lasted for about 2 days.
I've done it for 3 years. For the last 3 years, every Ramadan, I've not had no fried food. This year has been different. But before that, I used to be quite easy.
Yeah.
I have to go to
when you're on the road, it's a
right,
bit different.
like on the floor, and like I'm having no samosas, just have like a day.
Today's the first fried food I had all Ramadan. I had like a Dixie's chicken. But the burger was grilled, but the chicken that came with it, you know, the wings and stuff, that was fried.
You know, actually,
it's difficult being a fundraiser and doing that kind of stuff.
you know, I mean, you know, I kind of can sort of like agree with that to a degree because you know, Molvi kind of lifestyle, which is basically you're either an imam and there's not much exercise in being an imam apart from if you think doing ruku and sujood is the best exercise in the world.
I've seen stuff like that.
Have you seen them put the kind of yoga postures, and then they compare it
Islam
with.
must be the true religion because they teach you how to do exercise as well. In the namaz, you do exercise, so Islam, therefore...
Ankle position means that you're not going to have diabetes.
Yeah.
Therefore, Islam must be true.
If when you do sajda, because the blood flows to your face, that's how you beautify your face and cleanse your skin.
Allah Akbar.
I think you have to do a handstand for that, but never mind.
I think, you know, see, I think it kind of like what tends to happen is people want to kind of bring Islam into everything. You know, like when the COVID-19 happened. Soon as it happened, everyone wanted to find a dalil in the Quran for it, or some hadith for it, or, you know, wudu protects you from the spreading the virus. Yeah. And, you know.
What a dream moved us up.
Yeah, or like, yeah, I mean, that's what happens. I think naturally Muslims are so sort of like try to clutch, you know, hold on to their deen some way or somehow without academic sort of like, evidences, that they'll use anything to prove, like, cut the fruit open, see the name Allah, right? And that's it. That's enough of a dalil. So I think going back to what I was saying, when it comes to like, a Molvi lifestyle, when we say Molvi lifestyle, we mean lifestyle which is based around just, sitting in one place for a long period of time teaching, or imam, or giving a talk, which doesn't really require you to kind of run around too much. It can be an office lifestyle or whatever. I found that as well, because I used to eat, when I used to finish teaching around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So I'd come back and I would eat late. And I didn't know that eating late was bad for you. Yeah. And, it was only later on when I did my PhD in eating late.
Okay.
So it was only later on that I realized that what was happening was my food wasn't digesting by the morning. It was like I would get up and I'd feel like bloated still. So it wasn't kind of really digesting. And whenever I used to eat at night time, when I used to eat early, I'd find in the morning that I felt fresh and I felt like, fragile, more kind of like energetic. So I think, and that kind of brings me to the other point, which is, we talked about this with Yahya. And we said about why is it that Muslims don't know so much about the ingredients in foods, like, Western cooks, chefs. They seem to know like every ingredient, how it should be prepared and its benefits. Whereas Muslims, it's just like, oh, well, this is how we learnt it. We found our forefathers doing this, so we're going to be doing it as well. And I think we're the same with the exercise. It's like Muslims don't seem to know about this idea of how important it is to exercise. It doesn't have to come in the Sunnah or the Sahaba that they did exercise. But it's like the way...
For some people, Mufti Saab, the only exercise is when they do the Safa Marwa.
In their life. There's a funny thing that you were saying in it. So, in one of the groups I'm on, it's called... it's a Gujarati food group. Right, there's about 30,000 people on there.
Whoa.
Right, so it's a big group. You're not allowed now.
That's a lot of dal and jawal, bro.
There's no Pakistanis on there.
Can I convert?
There was one recipe, Mufti, which is quite funny. In the recipe, they have Eno. Not sodium bicarbonate.
Eno.
They literally, you have to put Eno into the food.
What's Eno?
I know.
Eno is that thing for your belly. The digestive medicine that you get. Eno. Is to help with digestion of food. So somebody had put that into the recipe. So whilst you're eating, it helps you digest your food.
Ajib.
How come Gujarati people have these kind of big forums? Like, I'm not on no Pakistani.
Excuse me, don't get jealous, bro. Don't get jealous, bro.
You guys would have decided on what color the logo would be. That's why.
Yeah.
Allah.
Okay, so going back to this then. So why is it that, Sahaba, in their time, they didn't have a specific sort of exercise that they do. Their lifestyle was like shaped around a healthy sort of lifestyle anyway. The work they did, right? It was very, if you look at even the lady Sahabiyat, Fatima radiallahu, the tasbih of Fatima, that was actually told to Fatima, right? Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, and Allahu Akbar.
It's manual labor, yeah.
Yeah, it was manual labor. So the idea of, like when they show that picture and they say, this was the gym in our grandma's gym, and they have the picture of of everything in the kitchen that was made by hand. Yeah, and in today's it's like this. Sahaba, their kind of lifestyle wasn't an exercise orientated lifestyle. It was just a natural way. No one consciously thought that they would do exercise, right? If they wanted to kind of like not do it, if they had the means, then they would have probably preferred that. Over the years, why is it that our Muslims don't seem to have, or why do you think, maybe it's a question for both of you, why do you think that the Muslims over the years don't kind of see this idea of importance of understanding the importance of the body as the years go by?
I think it's something that permeates the whole of Muslim life. It's how we value and our worldview. It's our worldview and how we value things. You see, I think if you look at the wider community, they look at the world differently. Their values are different. I think we are more orientated by money, work. We've got strong work ethics. We believe in working really, really hard if we need 12 hours a day, and all those sorts of things. So we put a value into other things, whereas I think the wider community, they place their value in different things.
I think Musab, like for us guys, I don't think we've been middle class in the West for long enough. Which means that we probably have been rich in the Middle East or in the in the Indian subcontinent, but we've not been rich within this environment. And because we've not been rich in this environment, our focus has always been on survival. Yeah. And that type of survival is more about, making sure we have a job, making sure we have work, making sure we have money and finances. And so our measurements for success have always been about how much meat do we eat in the household, how much chicken do we eat in the household.
But generally, as Muslims, if you see, look, we don't even, we're very serious. we don't really have a lot of leisure time or do things for leisure or just for the love of doing something. It always has to be. And I think part of that is maybe even the way we interpret religion, that, the only good deeds are worshipping, as in ritualistic worship, not like anything else, or worshipping, studying, working. Everything else is about it. Because we have that kind of mentality. And I mean, one of the things that I kind of propagate a lot is I said, look, Allah Ta'ala says, that we've not created, the universe in vain, and we created everything with a purpose. And mankind obviously has a purpose, and the classical verse that we've always taught in Madrasa, and the only one that everyone seems to know, is, that we created man and jinn except for my worship. Right? We have not created man and jinn except for my worship. So, but then worship is narrowed to just 5 times daily salah, Eid prayers. I mean, look at this conundrum that we're having with Eid prayers. So many people message me asking me, because they know that I've got a bit of background in Madrasa and stuff. This Eid prayer, like, astaghfirullah, what if I miss it? I said, we missed Jummah. We missed Jummah all the whole of Ramadan. Yeah, you missed Fard Salah in the thingy. Like, and now you're stressing over this, the thingy, Eid Salah. So then I said, look, but there's different opinions. Some say you can read Eid Salah, you can read it in the house if you want to. Otherwise, there's compensation, and you can read Nafal. But they're really worried that they're going to miss Eid Salah. And I was like, but what if God? I said, look, you're forgetting the spirit. You're completely forgetting the spirit of the text, and you're holding on to the letter.
Yeah.
I said, because if you prayed Nafal, and I don't know, it's how do you perceive God? Do you perceive God as like a mechanistic being? It's very, very binary. To be like this, like that. I said, you're going to pray, inshallah, God will accept your prayer. However you pray. You're doing something, your intention is there, the spirit is there, and why do you have to ritualize it and make it like, no?
Altaf, it's time to do your disappearing act now. It's time to do your disappearing act, bro.
Basically, bro, I disappeared and I came back, and it got a bit serious.
I can understand that. I mean, a lot of people, for example, with this issue, a lot of people ask me this question: can you play football in Islam? Can you play cricket in Islam? Can you kind of run in Islam? Can you do these kind of things? Because one of the things is we haven't found the Sahaba doing these. So does that mean that we are allowed to do these, or we're not allowed to do these? And then we have like a narration. Yeah, and then we have a narration which says that all sorts of forms of entertainment are prohibited except for 3 types of either horse riding or archery or playing with your wife, basically. So it's like, it's kind of like I think people are not when we talked about the kind of medicine in Islam and food, people are not understanding you don't have to just eat what the Sahaba ate. You don't have to kind of just use the medicines that they ate. It's obviously the context behind it. There's sort of like, all of these kind of different sort of like understandings of what they meant by sports in them days. In fact, like horse sports, I actually read this in this old magazine from Egypt that used to be issued in the early 19th century. So in there, they mentioned they said, the first sort of people in Europe that did horse parades were the Muslims in Spain. So this idea of horse racing and horse parades actually started in Spain, and then it spread throughout Europe. And it was like the whole reason for this was because, you know, like Olympics, if you got like someone at the top who is everyone's watching, you're going to have trickling down all different grades of people who are going to be interested in that sport.
Yeah.
So you got the top football players. Now, okay, at the, you know, international level, if you got football and the football players are being paid, right, is that allowed in Islam? You know, people can discuss that. But then what's the benefit? Like, if we were to take away professional sport from our society, how would that impact our society? Right? How would it impact the economy? How would it impact humans? So I think people fail to see these kind of little steps. And what they're trying to do is black and white, just look at it. Well, look, sports are not allowed. And then, I mean, sports are not allowed, but they'll support Man United.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the thing about purpose, I was saying, okay, so Allah's greatest creation, human beings, okay? And we have a purpose, and creation, and the purpose is to worship Allah. But do you only have to worship Allah in this? I mean, I'm not minimizing praying salah. What I'm saying is, you know, worship can encompass many things that we know, you know, and if you do it with the right intention. But Allah has given you talent, and I listened to how Muslim Bilal was talking about this and how he suffered. You know, Ashley Chin, Muslim Bilal, you know, how he left entertainment behind and everything, and he suffered. And I something I was thinking about for the last 7-8 years, because that's where I've had a major shift in my thinking has been in the last 8 years. And I thought, okay, Allah has given everybody talents. Everybody's got some talent and purpose. If you own that talent, you use it to benefit mankind and benefit people, we will progress as a society. You know, we'll really, really reach new heights as a society, and you live out your purpose, and you live a more fulfilled and happier life because you're living your purpose. And at the same time, you're benefiting people, and you do it with the right niyyah. You know, I'm certain Allah will reward you. Why wouldn't He?
But I think kind of like it's just that state of being Muftisab is like people. I think that's where people get confused.
Yeah.
It's like they compartmentalize faith into certain activities and actions, and it's not just the innate state of being. Like, you know, that is the way that you conduct yourself in absolutely everything is that form of worship or remembrance.
You know,
Like Ramadan gives you the heightened sense, right? You know that this month gives us the heightened sense that all of our actions are, you know, are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Ramadan gives you that heightened sense, but to be fair, like worship, it has that context of, you know, it has its formal activities that take place that are ritual and spiritual at the same time, but it's also just the innate state of being. Like, you know, if you one of the things, Musa, when I was going to ask this question, you know, you look at the masnoon du'as of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's not only the du'as, you always sometimes question what was the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam feeling in that moment. And I find that always, like, when I try to like understand that, so only like even just one du'a that we were speaking about was the one that you read after opening the fast, about, you know, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has quenched your thirst, satiated your the veins or your arteries, and you're praying for reward by Allah. Like when you eat and you think and contemplate that, it has a profound impact on you, in that actually that you realize how true it is. And so when you look at the other Muslim du'as of the Prophet, it's like that feeling.
Yeah, I think that fits on with what Adam was saying about the mindset. I mean, see, from the way I look at it, from a sort of like a historical academic sort of kind of way. See, what tends to happen with humans is humans will always develop, you know, their sciences, and will always find things which early civilizations weren't aware of, right? You know, psychology, for example. Like, if you look back in Muslim societies about psychology, you're not going to find anything. The earliest sort of like basic sort of psychological analysis that they did was like things on, you know, jinn possession, or, you know, sort of like waswasa, mind states, and these kind of things that were in the classical books. But if you talk about someone, for example, PTSD, right? They won't know that. They won't see that as being a kind of like a mental illness or some sort of a mental disorder. So it would be easy for someone in the past, when they were giving a fatwa, to dismiss this kind of things if they had no understanding of this kind of, this kind of condition. And I think the same thing has happened with a lot of other things. What tends to happen is, it's like we're trying to hold on to what the early scholars said, but we're trying to hold on to it so much that we're trying to replicate their lifestyle and their sort of like the way that they used to kind of, you know, conduct themselves exactly in this society. Even though we have more knowledge, you know, for example, as soon as that COVID-19 thing happened, the first debate that popped up was, do illnesses spread in Islam? Do we have to believe illnesses spread? And this, like, really, I mean, it's an academic debate, and it makes sense on the table. But when you bring it in real life, and you have to make a choice between seeing your grandparents, you know, suffer because of this illness, and you're saying to yourself, no, they're not getting it from me, right? I can go to the masjid, and I can, and it was like, you know, especially in places like Pakistan and India and these kind of places where a lot of people were, you know, saying, why should we stop praying in the masjids for? So, and then, you know, had these fatwas coming out. Some people say, no, you have to go to the masjids. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. You know, it's like, you know, you have to have a certain degree of risk before you can stop going to the masjid. So I think a lot of this kind of becomes more nuanced, granulated, right? So this kind of like granular sort of like masail or perceptions of the dunya and the world, how things work. That's where a lot of us fail. So that's why we're kind of asking a lot of these questions which seem mundane to the average person. Like if a non-Muslim kind of looked at us and said, look, Muslims are like, about that, you know, that sister who was killed, you know, in Blackburn the other day, and all of a sudden this one guy tweets and says, oh, she was Shia, we shouldn't be supporting her. And then it was like, you're kind of thinking to yourself, it's wrong, right? What the guy's saying is wrong. But then at the same time, you're thinking, well, I've never kind of like, said anything before this happened when there was these Sunni Shia debates on my social media, right? I didn't see it that serious. But when this kind of thing happens, then you realize how big of a problem in our community it is when we see this Shia Sunni bashing, right, on the public domain.
Don't you? You're dehumanizing a population.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
So I think
that kind of thing is gonna happen, and I think one of the brothers, I think one of the five pillars brothers was mentioning as well. Like he was looking at, it's not a one-way thing, it's a two-way thing, and it's a historical thing that's been there for decades. But is this the moment to bring that up, where you're just, you know, and I think this happens quite a bit, Musab, within the Muslim community, is like, you know, when an attack, an incident or something takes place, you know, instead of consoling those who've lost people, we have to shoot out conspiracy theories, we have to shoot out, you know, other random stuff, which on the face of it might be going through your mind, but you're just thinking, well, where's your compassion gone to start with?
Yeah.
Have compassion. This isn't the moment for your X, Y, and fourth and fifth line of thinking. I mean, and how does it look to the outside audience?
That's what I think about. You know, what concerns me a lot is like, I'm always reflective of how we appear to the wider community. And looking at some of the pettiness that's amongst us, I think, subhanAllah, like, you know, all praise to Allah, having made me a Muslim, right? If I wasn't a Muslim, and I've got quite a critical mind, and I saw all of this, I'd run a mile.
Is that to exercise?
You know,
Every day.
You know, like, you know, even the things like, look, you know, like I said, I keep mentioning this, like in Ramadan, right? I'm trying to stay away from mainstream music here, and I don't listen to a lot of music anyway, but I'm trying to stay away from mainstream music. And so I would listen to Khalid Siddiq and Mahir Zain and all these guys, right? And some of them have musical instruments. Every video, some guy has to start a debate about these musical instruments. Astaghfirullah, brother, you know, fear Allah, do tawbah now before you die and stuff like that. And, you know, I thought, you need to like have this debate every single video. I'm sure he knows what he's doing, right? You know, but I even watched a video where he explains how, you know, his justification for it, and I don't know, we're quick to judge people.
Actually, on that note, would you say listening to music or some sort of like, you know, rhythmic sort of like, you know, non-instrumental tunes, if you want to call it, listening to that whilst you're doing exercises, I've heard a lot of people say it kind of it motivates them.
It's meant to, because I mean, it's the same manner. I think that's why some of the scholars who say music isn't permissible, for that same reason, that it has an influence on you. You know, it can influence your being in one way or another. And and in that manner, you can. What happens is when certain music, it shuts off your sensation to pain, so it kind of blunts it, so that you can train that a little bit more harder, and
Okay.
it kind of you especially try this in when you're running. When you're running really hard, if you play like some really hard track, it kind of
So, Mufti Saab, I've got some Prodigy if you want.
it shuts off. Um,
But does Bollywood do okay?
Prodigies though.
yeah,
Naveed's just gone. He's just like,
mind you, having said that, when it comes to when it's weight training, I actually prefer to train in silence. As weird as it sounds, I feel that I have a better mind-muscle connection when I'm training in silence. And when it's something else, it distracts me. I don't get the mind-muscle connection.
I think sometimes it's just that you need the distraction away, so you're not thinking about the exercise as well. So like when you're doing like some cardio,
Cardio music definitely helps.
because it takes your mind away from like the fact that if you weren't doing that, like, I'd be looking at the machine thinking every second. So when I'm listening to a podcast, I just aimlessly think about the podcast. I look back at the time and I'm like, oh, like I'm almost done.
Well, when you're training hard though, podcasts and stuff don't cut you. You need some more faster beats. I find that when I'm training, when I'm listening to podcasts and audiobooks and things, I have to be training at low intensity. So as the intensity goes high, I can't focus on anything.
I think I listen to different stuff. That I listen to like there's a really good BBC one on BBC Histories. It's by the guy who was it's an adult it's for grown-ups, but he was the guy that produced Horrible Histories for Kids.
Okay.
Right, but it's brilliant. He's got like he does a few conspiracies, but then he also does like Salahuddin Ayyubi and that's really interesting.
What is it called?
I think it's called BBC Histories or BBC Horrible Histories. One or the other, it's called.
Okay.
But it's a really popular one on if you go on Apple, you can kind of find it there on the podcast list, and it's quite interesting because those are the types of podcasts that I would listen to. They're not like heavy listening, and they're more about history and sometimes about secret clubs that existed and how they existed and formed and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of like would listen to those because I find that it does take that time out. Mufti Saab, one of the things that I'm quite wary that, obviously tonight, maybe the 29th, and we don't want to go on for too long. There was one question that I wanted to kind of put front and square for you as well, is that actually, when it comes to Ramadan, some people will have had a good Ramadan and, there's habits that they need to continue. There may be some people who didn't have the greatest Ramadan in terms of spiritually, and we know post-Ramadan, you normally have a lull. Now, if you've not had a good, if you had a good Ramadan, you have a lull and you can come back. The graph looks a bit better. But if you've had a bad Ramadan and you have a lull, then it can go anywhere. What would you give advice? What type of advice would you give to that type of person?
I mean, I personally think that sometimes when we kind of like feed people a lot of information about how the people in the past used to fast in Ramadan, I think that creates a very difficult level for us to reach, right? So you see, for example, like Sahaba, how they used to fast, or some of them used to fast, and then you see some of the later scholars. So what's going to happen is the scholar who's going to be delivering the talk is going to deliberately choose like the most amazing fasts, the most amazing recitations, the most amazing Taraweeh and Qiyamul Layl and these kind of incidents. And then he'll present it to the people for motivational purposes. And here is where the problem arises for me as someone who kind of like answers people's questions, is I will have to, when someone asks me a question, like someone asked me a question the other day about something as well, like, let's say a guy has 2 wives. And how does he have to share, like, does he have to be just between them? So I say, look, the only just, like, when the fuqaha say just, it only has to be just when it comes to spending night, like where he spends the night, right? It's got to be just in that. Everything else, it doesn't have to be. So but then they quote the kind of famous like saying that there was a scholar in India who had 2 wives, and then someone brought him a watermelon, and then for one wife, and then he had to cut it in half, and then said, bring me another one. So I can give, he want to be so fair with them. So what tends to happen is when people are fed something, via the mimbar, it seems to hold a lot of weight for them, and they begin to deduce a lot of their religion from that. Yeah. And then when it comes to answering the real questions, and you give them an answer which doesn't really conform with that level, right? It's a bit, the bar's a bit lower. Then they can't understand that. But how comes the Sheikh said that it has to be like this? So and so scholar did this. So and so needs to read the Quran. He needs to scream and faint all the time. How come I don't see my imam screaming and fainting? Yeah. Or how come I don't see this? So I don't think what happens in Ramadan is a lot of people are kind of pressured into feeling that, that sort of like spiritual feeling, and then what that does is kind of it creates this despondency, because if you feel you haven't done in Ramadan, it's just like, what's the point then? Like, you go gym and then you don't go for a month, and then you see the effect on your body and think, what's the point going back? Yeah, that's how I feel when I go to gym and I haven't been for a while.
I totally understand. What you're saying is you set the bar so high it becomes unattainable, and then it becomes counterproductive. We find that too, and then also, and when I was saying to you before that I've become much wiser in the whole fitness thing. And before I used to like scold people, like, you should go to the gym, otherwise, and you should eat healthy. Now I've learned that, like you said, it creates despondency when you threaten people. Right? It doesn't actually motivate them to take action. It actually does the opposite. People shut off, and these studies have shown that people actually increase in there. When you tell people that smoking is going to kill you, they start smoking more, because they shut off, and then their coping mechanism is to smoke another cigarette, because they need to get rid of that bad feeling. When you tell an obese person that you're fat, you should go for a run, that makes them feel bad. And if they've got a behavior where they're emotionally eating anyway, you just made them, put them into that crappy feeling state where now they're going to eat some more to get rid of that feeling. Instead, you need to give people hope. يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا بَشِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا. So you have to give people hope rather than push people away and tell them.
I mean, I personally think, look, in the end of the day, Allah is the judge here. As long as you do your ibadah, your main ibadat, right? You do your salat, and you do your respect your parents, and these kind of things that we all know that we should be doing. The other things, we need consistency in that. I think more than anything, we need to encourage people, be consistent. Whatever you do, just be consistent. It's like, I think probably this might be a good a way of sort of like bringing it together, which is in the gym. Consistency is probably one of the most important things. You can go to the gym for one whole week hyped up, and then after that, if you haven't been for like 2 months,
that's a principle of life, isn't it? And there's that hadith as well, isn't it? That that most beloved deed to Allah is that which is small, consistent, being small. And that's a principle of life, whether it's business, education, health, anything. Consistency trumps everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are nuances. Like, if you're curling an orange all day, you're not going to get massive biceps, even if you do it consistently. So there are nuances to it, but generally speaking, consistency trumps everything.
Okay, let's do one round then. What do you guys find then generally is your sort of like things that you wish that you could improve after Ramadan, but you tend not to kind of keep up with it? The new resolutions that you make yearly, and then you find that you kind of fall back on them. Naveed?
Probably praying Quran.
You mean consistently?
Yeah, consistent. Like, the amount you do in Ramadan is like trying to stick to that level, because you find like lots of distractions. But then it's that whole bar setting level thing again, Musabin, is that your bar is so high in Ramadan, right? That outside of Ramadan, when you try to keep it consistent, it doesn't necessarily kind of take over. And then once you fail a few times, you don't wake up in the morning thinking, today's a new day. You just think, that habit's dead now. I can't do it. I need to find another one. And I think it's that point. Nav?
Mine is probably the night prayer, bro. I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people. I'm not talking about Isha, I'm just talking about getting up for the Hajjah or Qiyam or whatever however you define it, basically. I know that's like probably the best time to speak to Allah. Obviously, you feel it in Ramadan, especially when you're searching for the night of Qadr. You're never that in tune if you know what I mean, with a nawafil salah, like the way you are during the Hajj time. I think that's probably something that I need to do more often. And read Quran, like you say, bro. It's not enough. Like, I'll be honest, yeah, like, the only time I find myself reading Quran outside Ramadan is when I go to it, like, outside the lockdown, before we go to the masjid, and I'm sitting there waiting for, like, the imam to lead the salah or whatnot, and I'll read, like, a page or two there. But I need to get into the habit of consistent praying all the time. Not when I've got time, but to make time for the Quran. Base my time around the Quran, as opposed to basing the Quran around my time.
Allah, that sounds like a poem there, bro.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Guys, I hate to be so rude here, but we're going to lock up now, and it's nearly 12 o'clock. I'm going to have to shoot. You're going to have to give me ijazah a little early today.
No problem, inshallah.
Yeah, we're gonna finish
I'm
the
sure
bit.
you guys can see, like, obviously I've been in and out, man. It's just busy night for us, bro.
Well accepted, man.
You take care, bro.
I mean, take care.
Okay.
Nice speaking to you. Nice meeting you as well, bro. Jazakallah khairan.
Okay, Adam, what would you say is yours?
It keeps studying the Quran. You know, I like to analyze and study the Quran, and I don't do that as often as I should. In Ramadan, I try and make a bit of an earnest effort. For me, it's just taking time out. I work 24/7, literally. It's just, but it's like I said, like setting the bar high. I've set my bar very high when it comes to being good at what I do, and for me, that's kind of taken over my life. And I mean, when I was younger, when I was in madrasa, and I posted about this a couple of days ago. One of the things that happened to me when I was in madrasa, I got madrasa conditioning, and for me, when I was at uni, I taught myself how to understand Quran, by the way, whilst I was at uni. So I can read and understand the Quran, but I taught myself over the 6 weeks holiday period when I was at uni. And so I'm going to say that there's a negative thing, but there's a positive thing that came out of it. So when I was at uni, when I was younger, anytime I did anything that was dunyawi, and anything outside of the rituals was dunyawi, even studying for my exams, if I exerted the amount of effort that I was supposed to, I'd feel guilty because I was getting too dunyafied. I had this problem with guilt for years. I only overcame that, like I said, when I've had this shift in the last 8 years. Prior to that, anytime I made any effort that was perceived as dunyawi, I used to feel guilty and I would back off. So I would self-sabotage. And this is because of the conditioning that I had from... and I used to go to Tabligh Jamaat gatherings and all that stuff. And I used to go for 3 days, and not routinely, but I used to go. And so all of that conditioning made me have this thing that, okay, worship is only like this, and everything else is dunyawi and batil and a waste of time. And you should be 90% of your effort should be on rituals, and the other 10%, if you've got spare time, look for your work, and then you've got spare time. Now I think and Ashley Chin said this. Well, look, now I think that everyone's got talents. Allah's giving you talents. And then Allah might ask you, look, I gave you so many talents. What do you do with them? So now I think you should be, instead of thinking like that, you should of course do your worship, pray your 5 times Allah, read your Quran. Of course you should do all of that. But also, if you got a natural talent or something that you're passionate about, you should use that and harness that to benefit people for the sake of Allah or with the right intention as well. And that's my outlook now.
Alhamdulillah.
So what's yours?
Me, I think I'm quite complete.
That's what I wanted to hear. You don't best that's complete. Come on.
I'm just...
I can't tell you my fault. I'm going to lose subscribers. I mean, personally, I would say one of the biggest things that Quran definitely. I mean, not in the sense less Quran. In the year, the amount, because I'm teaching a lot of Quran as well. So but it's the way I look at the Quran. So in Ramadan, it's a more reflective. Yeah, it's more reflection of the Quran in Ramadan, and in outside of Ramadan, it would be more a kind of like a teaching environment. So I wouldn't be reflecting as much. Rather, I'll be teaching. That's one thing, and the other thing I think is the idea of du'a as well. I think the amount of dua that I'd probably take time out in making in Ramadan is probably much more higher frequency than outside of Ramadan. I mean, outside of Ramadan, you generally just tend to kind of like really be sincere in your dua when you're going through a problem in life, or you really need something. But in Ramadan, it's more as though you want to make dua. Like, you know, it's a kind of like, I don't know, it's a natural sort of feeling I get that I want to make. So I think those are the two kind of things I'd probably say. I don't know what the subscribers, they're saying.
So should we check some comments before we close?
Yeah. Let's check some.
We haven't got anything on Facebook at the moment.
Okay, so here we've got Cam is saying mind over matter whilst training. Very important to focus on, not to be distracted. All about intelligent training. Intelligent training is a new nice word. Training should be enjoyable. Cam, ignore the vest wearing tight t-shirt gym experts, wannabe personal trainers. S. Kaan is saying our Imam Saab can do 100 push-ups. MashaAllah. Cam, I used to know an Imam who could juggle, you know, with the proper pins. Yeah. So I went to his mosque once and he goes to me, come here. He took me aside and he pulled out these massive pins and started juggling.
Wait there. I know.
You know who the Imam is. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I know the same person.
So, Mug is saying manual labor, not automated. Mug, for me, the best form of training is doing sports, physical sports. You see, I've kind of moved away from MMA because I have more enjoyment in playing like badminton. Although it doesn't kind of cater for all the kind of, you know, as needs I have. But it kind of like, I'm very competitive in that sense. Rather than...
You need to play your badminton?
Bro, you need to try to pay me.
Oh,
try to play me. Try.
Is it? We should stream that game live on your YouTube channel.
I might lose subscribers. Okay, Cam is saying zikr helps me more, so then whilst music training works for me, especially the third kalima. I mean now there are these types of nasheeds you get which are very sort of like borderline, you know, non-musical ones, and these types of zikrs out there now that seem more like, you know, upbeat, sort of like, I don't know what you call them, rhythmic annotations.
Chechen style ones.
Yeah, have you seen those ones? Yeah. S was saying, with this are people who think like that, it's hard to get them to undo that thinking. It's like they become wired that way. Yeah, I think that's referring to what we were saying earlier on about the people who get the information from purely, you know, spiritual talks. S was saying, I'm referring to people who hear stories and bayans and thinking they need to emulate that. Yeah. So I think, I mean, there's lots more we could have talked about today. I think maybe in the future we can bring Brother Adam on again. Brother Adam, what do you have anywhere that people can contact you to maybe get advice from you or anything like that?
We'll be on Facebook.
Okay, so if you leave your details with me, I'll put it in the description below. And then
I've got a YouTube channel as well. I actually did a video on how to train in Ramadan.
Okay.
Although I'm not, and I've got a massive blog post, 3,000 word blog post about training in Ramadan as well.
Excellent.
I've done the rounds and I've updated it this year. And
if you send me those links, and then inshallah I can put them in the description here, and then you guys can check out you know, Adam's YouTube, subscribe to it. Yeah, mashallah, show him some love as well. And
some proper content on there.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally think if a Muslim is providing, you know, something which is out of passion, and it's something which seems as though it's good, I think we should support that, whether we you know, want to subscribe to them or not, is a separate thing. But I think supporting our Muslims doing things like, you know, whether it's Muslims going into certain areas which you might consider dubious, like, you know, that, see that Tesco advert that recently came on, right? And then, you know, whether you agree with that or not, I think in 100 years living in the UK, we are going to have Muslims in various, you know, areas of life, and especially when it comes to training. I think, especially with all this diabetes and things, you know, I'll tell you something now. I actually stopped drinking fizzy drinks for about 4 years now. Yes, about 4 years. You know how I stopped? Yeah, I stopped because a doctor in the mosque gave a talk. A doctor. Yeah, he gave a talk in the mosque, and he just said in the mosque, it just sounded more authentic when he said it next to the minbar than me reading it on a post or something. For some reason, you know, maybe it's hardwired in me.
That's why I need to be. I need to go into the minbar. You know, I did.
14 years, by the way.
14 years you had it? Oh.
I've not had a fizzy drink in 14 years.
You know, I drink fizzy drinks, but I avoid the sugary ones. I have the sugar-free stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't touched one since university because basically I was necking a bottle of
you could have said something like 6 years or 7 years. You made money.
Thai sweet chili 2006.
Alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
man.
probably about this time, July 2000, June 2006, just before my exams.
And Mustafa, you know what you're saying about community support? You know what I've noticed? You know, in Canada, over there, right, everyone supports everybody. There's massive divergence of opinion, but they all support each other. Like you've got the Nasheed artists that have music and ones that don't, but even the ones that don't have the music, they support the ones with the music and vice versa. And you know, then you've got all sorts. I see all sorts. You know, like just like we've got a lot of difference of opinion in the UK, but over here we're all at each other's throats because of our difference of opinion. Over there, they embrace it and they support each other. I've noticed that a lot.
Interesting. Maybe it might be a good for future podcast, inshallah. Anyway, guys, any last comments anyone wants to make?
No, Musab, I think we gotta just get ready for post Ramadan.
Yeah.
And announce what we're gonna do.
So post Ramadan, what do you guys think? If you guys leave it in the comments now or maybe later on, leave in the comments so we can think about it as well. And we'll let you know, inshallah. So next week, we'll see how we're gonna do it. Might do it once a week or might do, I don't know. We still got to decide. But you guys let us know if you guys think you're benefiting from these and you'd like to see more, what kind of topics you'd like to see. And you know, I personally think one of the benefits of having podcasts, we can bring on guests. I mean, Brother Adam, I've seen him on Facebook so many times, but I've never got a chance to kind of talk to you. Yeah, and I think you sound like an excellent guy, mashallah. Yeah, I'd like to train with you, as long as you don't shout at me.
Very, very. I'm not the shouting type of trainer. Well, I'm a coach, and coaches don't shout. Really. Personal trainers.
Say all of this, Mufti before they get you in the gym.
You know,
I'm loving.
when I was doing training, yeah.
Will be so easy. And then you go into the gym and they say, push, and you're like, but the shouting of.
Yeah, so one of my coaches, he used to go to me, Maulana, I am not going to say anything to you. And he said, everyone, this is a Maulana. I'm not going to say anything to him. Yeah, watch, you're gonna do it. And when the time came, he said, Maulana, if you don't punch me in my face, I'm gonna punch you in your face.
Well, if someone has the time to coach, coaches shouldn't really. That's not the coaching style. Personal trainers are a bit more militant, and that's more old school. But coaching is a different style altogether. If there's someone yelling and shouting, they're not coaching. Personal training.
Yeah, I'll have to go and tell him that now. So Jazakallah khair, guys. We'll wrap up there, inshallah. Thank you guys for watching. And details of Brother Adam, inshallah, you can find them in the description later on, inshallah. Put them in. And yeah, so likes, if any of you haven't given likes, hit the like button, inshallah. And we'll see you guys hopefully after Eid. Have a wonderful Eid, guys, and take care and keep safe as well. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you, guys. It's appreciated.
Assalamu alaikum.